Hi, I'm Wayne Tuttle, and this is Chasing Legends. Welcome back to Chasing Legends. Wayne Tuttle, your host once again. I know. I've been your host since the beginning, so I guess that's what you paid the good money for, right? For the free video. Hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, check out the website, legendsofsuperstitionmountains.com. Rent sunsets again, rent sunsets again, then buy it. That all said and done, busy weekend. You ever have that time when you're kind of going through things and everything you fix, then something else breaks? So then you try to fix that, but then this next thing yeah, it's one of those. But we have a story still the same because we never stop. We never fail you every Monday. So this story is about a man named Duncan Teller. Duncan Teller's up in northern Arizona. He comes out, he's prospected. This is around I'm looking down at notes, 1885. He's up and around the Havasupai Canyon area. And he's been prospecting. He finds some low-grade copper, some different stuff. He becomes actually quite friendly and good friends with a number of the Havasupai. And he stops in their camps and visits with them. And they kind of look out for him. They don't see him as a bother or a problem. So he's in camp one day with the Havasupai, and he's telling them, man, I haven't really found anything particular and all. And they're kind of like, I don't know, maybe check here, maybe check there. And he sees some arrowheads they have. And he looks at them, and he realizes, he starts kind of polishing on them and realizes it's silver. And he goes, where did you find this stuff? And they're like, oh, we found this cave, big enough you can ride a horse into. And it's back in there. They said they thought it was lead, but they realized once they got it, it was soft enough to mold or shape, but it was hard enough. And they didn't know silver particularly, but they knew it was not lead. And he's like, oh, well, I'll have to go check this out. And they're like, oh, yeah, there's plenty of it. And so he's like, can you please tell me directions, wondering if this is going to be one of those things where they go, oh, no, we can't tell you. And they're like, well, it's very difficult to find, but we'll tell you how to get there. It's actually quite easy. And he's like, oh, great. What is it? And he says, what's the directions? And they said, well, you go to where there's this big blue volcanic rock. And when you find it, it's flat. And you'll see a spiral, one continuous line. But when the line finishes at the end, it kind of works out and there's an arrow pointing. They said you directly follow up that arrow, and as you go up the ridge, you'll go right to the cave. And he's like, it's that easy? And they think it's funny. They go, no, it's that easy. We put that mark in there so we can all find it. Okay. So off he goes. He goes out, and he's going through this brush clearing stuff, and he finds this stone. And it's this blue volcanic rock and big slab, and it has a spiral. And he's thinking, my God, it's actually here. It exists. These guys weren't kidding. So he looks at the arrow, starts heading up, and he gets up to this cave, and he says, a big cave opening. He said you could ride a horse into. And he sees on the side, one side, there's a bit of a silver vein. And he looks at it and realizes that isn't, I don't know what they were thinking. There isn't that much silver. They must have got most of it out because this isn't pretty much worth my while. But he decided it's late. He's going to make camp. So he goes inside, take his things because it's a big open, airy space. Gets inside. There's an old little spring that feeds out of there. And it's run a channel down through there. And it's he's like, man, this is a sweet spot. I see why they camp here and they use it all the time. But once he gets inside, he realizes there's this one section of the wall that's just pitch black. And he goes over and starts looking at it and realizes it's almost all silver. And he's like, it can't be silver. This has to be lead because there's just too much of it. It just looks too pure. So deciding he might as well get it sampled, he has his mules there. He takes off. He gets 2 mule loads of this stuff. He takes it all that he can, spends the next day there, and then rides back into town. He gets into Flagstaff, he takes it down, and he has someone go through it, and he's trying to be a little secretive, but then it's assayed out at 70% pure silver. He's pretty damn happy. He gets $300-400 for it, for the ore, and then he goes, okay, so I'm going to do really well on this. This is a good deal. So he decides it's fall, beginning of fall, he's going to get back quick as he can. So he gets everything together, heads back, but a snowstorm happens. Because always in one of these stories, there's a snowstorm. So the snowstorm occurs, and as he's getting up, it's one of those early winter storms, and he gets snow blinded, he can't get up, and he's just like, well, man, what can I do? He has to finally turn back. So he turns back. In the spring, he's going to head out, but another storm comes in and cuts his trip short. Third time, it's June, the next summer, and he finally gets out. Everything's cleared. He gets out. He goes right to where he thinks he's supposed to be, and he can't find the cave. And he goes, well, I'll just go back to the rock, and then that arrow will point me, because maybe I'm just not remembering things. I've only been there one time. So he goes back. It takes him a while. He's having trouble. Everything seems not to be oriented right. He finds the rock finally, looks at the arrow. He said he starts walking that, and nothing looks familiar. Starts heading up. He gets up there, and he's looking around, and he's looking down at things, and he finds some smaller caves and stuff, but nothing like that. He finds some low-grade silver in a couple areas, but nothing that attaches to that. He's like, I can't be wrong. So he goes back, and then he starts again from that point, and he goes, and he searches. Finally, not knowing what else to do, he goes back to the Havasupai camp. They think it's funny, because they think, look, the directions are there. How can you not find it? We've always found it. Now, there's 2 Indians that go out there with him. I'm trying to find their names. It's just a lot of people. Anyways, these two Indians, the Havasupai, are friends of his, and they said, we'll take you out. We'll go look at it. We'll show you where it's at. And they're in good mood, and they go out. Well, they get there, and they look at the stone, and they both look confused around. And they look at the stone, and they look around, and they just seem confused, and they go, this is not right. Well, sometime during the winter, the stone must have got moved or turned. And so they're all trying to figure out which direction did it really point before. And they're thinking it shouldn't make that much difference. It couldn't have moved that much. So they spend a few days out there, but they cannot find the cave for anybody's luck or anything at all. Now, of course, Duncan Teller does not give up, and he continues to search. There's a man that packs and comes through the area occasionally, a man named Jim Morgan. Should have remembered that one. Jim Morgan comes through with his mules one day, and they're talking, and he's talking to Morgan that he's looking for this silver ledge and all this stuff. And Morgan says, I think there's a little silver up there. There's a cave up in that area. It's big enough you can bring your horse in and all this. And this makes Teller go, oh, maybe he knows where it's at, and he never really looked at it that close. So Morgan tells him about where it's at. It's in a different area than he's been looking. So now he's thinking, man, did the stone move? Did I get something really wrong? I don't understand. But he goes, thanks, Morgan. Morgan goes on, continues on his trip. He goes up. He finds this cave, but it's a different cave. He says it's very similar. The opening's similar, but there's nothing inside. He works the area, so he decides, well, there's caves everywhere. I'm just going to methodically, like a grid, start going through and trying to figure out where the silver ledge is. So as he's doing this, one day he's doing it, and someone takes several shots at him. He never sees the person, and he's looking all over the place, and he's trying to figure out, why is someone shooting at him? He's been here. He's spent a couple of years out here. He's pretty familiar with the area. He doesn't really notice anyone else out. And he kind of keeps cover for a while, but he never hears or sees anybody else. And finally goes back to his camp, sneaks back. He gets into his camp. He's cooking dinner, and someone starts approaching. Startles him, and he jumps, but it's Jim Morgan. Now, first he's suspicious because he's thinking Morgan was in the area. Was Morgan trying to kill him? But why would Morgan kill him? And Morgan just kind of like matter-of-factly just started talking to him and said, hey, you mind if I grab some dinner with you tonight? Just passing through again. Well, he gets to talking with Morgan, And he realizes Morgan's probably not the person who shot at him. They've had good relations before. So he finally decides he's going to break down and tell Morgan, because Morgan passes through. Morgan might see something. He tells him about the stone and the whole thing, and that he found the silver, and it's very, very good, high-grade silver. But he doesn't, he can't find the spot again. And Morgan says, well, you know what? I got to go down. I got to drop off what I'm doing. I got to pick up some more burros and some more horses, and then I got to move those, but I'll come back through. I'll drop you some supplies. And when I come back through, we'll kind of work out a plan. And then I'll come back and I'll spend some time with you, and we'll search the area. Well, meanwhile, Duncan's still puzzled who shot at him. And Morgan says, there's this crazy old hermit who lives down the canyon. He says, I wonder if it was him. He says, I don't know his name. I just seen wisps of him as I passed through. I've never had trouble with him. But he says, I wonder if it's him. He's been back here quite some time. And so Duncan Teller's thinking, going, I was looking in a new area. Maybe I encroached on this guy's area or something. And that was kind of this guy's warning shots or something. But he's thinking it kind of nerves him a little. But Morgan says, I'll be back, so don't worry about it. Just kind of stay close to camp, and then we'll figure this thing out. So a matter of weeks go by, and Morgan comes back in the camp, and he finds the camp, but it's deserted. Everything's cold. The pots haven't been cooked in. There's just nothing sitting there. He's looking around. It doesn't look like anybody's been there for days. So he wonders if Duncan Teller had run into town or something else. But he says, why would he leave all his stuff here? You would think he would take it. So he starts riding down the trail, and after several hundred yards, he finds Duncan Teller's body. He's been shot several times in the chest and the stomach. And he realizes, wow, whoever that person was got home and shot him. So he's looking around and he's going, maybe I need to get out of here. He starts going down the trail, and after another 40, 50 yards, he runs into the other body. This gentleman was shot in the head. So what appears is that person started shooting at Duncan Teller. Teller managed to get one good shot in, and it caught the hermit in the head and killed him instantly. So Morgan decided, okay, you know what? I'll get into town. I'll tell the sheriff and stuff, and let him know what happened and that they're out here. So the sheriff comes out, and they go out there and they check it out. Now, there was a geologist that had come out and looked in the area and said there was no high deposits of silver he could find. But Teller had turned in that ore, and he had received the cash, and he had seen it, and said the Havasupai were disappointed when they couldn't go back out and find it because it was good for their arrowheads. There was a man named Asa Walker. Now, this is a number of years later, and Asa Walker comes through, and he finds a bunch of pieces of busted up silver that's called horn silver that looked like it was the same grade. Morgan talked to him and tried to work with him, but still to this day that I know of, I could not find any follow-up. No one ever found that large opening in the cave that a horse could walk in that had a wall of almost pure silver in the back. So that's the story of Duncan Teller. It sounds good enough. It was a story I didn't find in too many other books or anything. It had a nice folder, but it only had a couple articles on it, so it was just something that, in passing, someone talked. Were all these guys' names? Jim Morgan, it's hard to tell if the Jim Morgan I found was Jim Morgan. But there was a Duncan Teller and there was an Asa Walker, so it did seem to, and the sheriff's name was correct, so it could have been the writer put in a little time to touch up the story. But I tend to believe it, that he did find something, went out there, and the Havasupai had something, but for some reason during that storm, it had changed the directional marker. Now, I've seen the article. They did find the stone. They still have not found that cave that I know of, but there were pictures actually of the marker of the circle with the spiral with the arrow. So they did find the blue volcanic rock slab that still had the marker on it. They just never were able to figure out how it originally was oriented. So there's the story of Duncan Teller's lost silver ledge. And I find it fascinating. I hope you do too. Hope everyone has a great rest of the week, catches us on live, and every day catches on this day in the Superstition Mountains. But until the next time, I hope everybody's well, and always remember, I'm Wayne Tuttle. You're not. And this was Chasing Legends.